Sigrika's attributes have been revealed. Let's talk about it. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. Today is a very jolly day, a very happy day indeed. And do you know why that is? Because Sigrika's attributes have been revealed, and they have been revealed to be something that I was hoping for. She is an Aero Gauntlets character. Now, Gauntlets I'm not necessarily interested in all that much. The thing that's really caught my eye here is the fact that her attribute is, oh my goodness, could not be happier about this, Aero. So, why exactly is this so great? Well, if you didn't catch my last video when I was talking about Sigrika, essentially, I mentioned that in terms of what she could potentially end up doing, there are two unused echo sets in the game right now, one of them being for a fusion burst support, and the other potentially being for an echo skill damage dealer. Now, you could argue an echo skill damage sub-DPS, it's because Choyuwen seriously was not that long ago, so I do not think they would be replacing him anytime soon, and he is just going to continue to be the best echo skill damage support available at the moment, and that is precisely the crux of why I am so excited right now. If Sigrika ends up being an Aero echo skill damage DPS, that is another dub to Choyuwen, another win for the guy, and I am very happy about that. Essentially, my favorite Wuthering Waves character may be potentially getting another team, so I am one happy camper. Now, of course, Sigrika could end up doing something completely different, but consider that erosion as a negative status has already been completely covered. We already know from IMF that Kuro Games is far from done with negative statuses, but erosion is pretty much covered with Cardathea, so they're obviously not going to revisit that, especially when we already have Chisa as a premium third slot teammate for it, so she wouldn't be doing that either. And because the current set that's being unused right now provides crit rate and echo skill percent, I'm honestly unsure what other avenue Kuro Games could even think of taking here, because it's just so obvious. It is abundantly clear what path they can take here. And I'm seriously hoping it ends up being a path that benefits Choyuwen. Now, obviously, Linny is in fact a character that exists, so I doubt that you're going to require Choyuwen simply because that character's buffs are so universal. I also expect that, as per usual, unless she has some really specific mechanic in her kit that requires Choyuwen, which I simply doubt because characters seldom ever have that, the double Toon Break core is probably going to end up being strong with her if she were to end up being a DPS, and I don't necessarily think that she's going to have any specific mechanic that's going to get her out of that. Now, if she was a negative status unit, that would be a different story, and you can never say never. Consider that Chisa is a Havoc character that can support any negative status, and they are not done with the archetype yet, but I simply think that for an Aero character, we can glean as much as the fact that Kuro probably isn't going to make another negative status unit, especially when we're waiting for a fusion burst support. And usually, an attribute wouldn't necessarily excite me this much. It would just tell me what potential teammates they may be able to use, or what holes Kuro may potentially be trying to fill within the meta. For example, if a character is fusion, then Lupa is probably going to be a good teammate for them, etc. That kind of thing. So usually, an attribute really doesn't tell you much. Maybe if there is a recent negative status character that doesn't have a negative status teammate, we can assume that they're going to get their applicant soon or their DPS soon, something like that. But you can never really know anything for certain. But in this particular case, because I just have some personal interest here, and I am really hoping for the best for Choyuwen here, I am going to make the assumption that the Echo skill set is probably for Sigrika. Now, unless she ends up doing something completely different and has absolutely nothing to do with that. But I would be surprised if that were to be the case, because we have two unused sets in the game right now, and generally speaking, Kuro Games does not leave that to be the case for very long after a set addition to the game. I think the longest we've ever went with a set not really being used for anybody in particular, or even just simply not having their best in slot user yet, was Cantarella with Midnight Veil. Otherwise, we usually get users for sets pretty quickly, so I have a lot of investment in this. I have a personal stake in this. I really want this to be the case, because then that means my favorite character gets another team. So I'll admit, yes, I am a little biased here, and I do want that to be the case, but genuinely, what else would she even do? When we literally have the unused set in the game right now, tell me, what else would she even do? I cannot think about it. Because we already got such strong supports with the double Toon Break core, and Choyuwen already exists and is a really good support for his respective teams. This is only going to increase his value, which is so nice. Choyuwen lovers, we are simply winning today. A large reason as to why I'm so excited about this is simply because Choyuwen's value is so inherently tied to how good Echo skill damage DPSs are in the meta right now. Now, obviously, that's going to be different if you have sequences and you're like me who plays him as a main DPS, but otherwise, if you're playing him at S0 as a support, then you're mostly going to be paying attention to how he performs with his respective DPSs. Now, Galbraina is still a very good unit, but you can completely skip Choyuwen and be fine. Running a Lupa team or double Toon Break core is going to service you just fine. And then, in terms of Frolova, she was the best DPS in the game, and to be honest, she's still an absolute meta behemoth, but now IMF's the best DPS in the game, so if your reason for getting him was so that you could support the best DPS, now, I wouldn't necessarily say Frolova's fallen off, she is still ridiculously strong, but by a technicality, she's not the best anymore. Definitely still the prime unit to use in Whimpering Wastes, that much is for certain, but in TOA, IMF has definitely power crept her. So, okay. It's not a bad position whatsoever. Choyuwen is still a really meta unit, and he's still more important to Frolova than Cantarella is. You would rather go for Linny Choyuwen than Cantarella Shorekeeper. But even so, I'm really happy because of two things. First of all, this is going to give him another modern option that's going to be pretty healthy and new in the meta, so that's amazing. And second of all, it means that I was right. We are going to get more Echo skill damage DPSs down the line because Echo skill damage just seems like a pretty interesting archetype that also just fits well into Wuthering Waves' combat system. So Choyuwen is just going to continue to be a really good support down the line, and that is amazing. Now, I don't know if they're going to make Sigrika require Choyuwen. I doubt it. I will also mention that them both being Aero just does not matter. That has nothing to do with it. But I more so mean, is Linny just going to end up mogging? The one thing I do want to bring up is that, of course, Linny and Mornier, or just Linny on her own, will probably end up being a good support for her simply because she's that girl and the double Toon Break core is just kind of that core. But even so, you only have one opportunity to use those characters in DPM. You can only use them for 2 charges in Middle Tower in TOA, and you can only use them on 1/2 in Whimpering Wastes. Now, if all of your other teams are sorted in terms of supports and you're looking for a new character to inhabit those, then okay, that's great. But otherwise, Choyuwen is still getting a win here ultimately. We cannot discredit the existence of all sub-DPSs ever simply because Linny and Mornier exist. Now, if another set, just as broken and universal as the double Toon Break core came out, then we can start panicking. Even then, DPM does still exist, but either way, we can start panicking a little bit more then, because I would say the focus of most people's attention being TOA would start to be resolved pretty easily by universal characters. But at least for now, that is not the case. But another thing that I should mention is that Kuro Games has not officially revealed anything else about Sigrika. We only know about her attribute and her weapon type. That is literally it. So ultimately, we can't make any real assumptions as to which character is going to work with her right now. We can only make guesses. And in terms of making guesses, I would say that we don't really know how much better or worse Linny and Mornier are going to be over just using Choyuwen. And obviously that's just insane cope bias agenda maxing on my side because I really like Choyuwen. But I'm just saying, maybe Choyuwen will actually be a significant upgrade this time around. Or maybe he's literally just going to be worse than them, which, to be honest, is a more realistic situation, but point stands that he may potentially be getting a new teammate, as I just don't think Sigrika is going to be a 3rd slot. We already got Mornier recently, and they don't come out as much, and we also got Chisa not too long before that, plus we already have Choyuwen for the 2nd slot role of this particular archetype. So all around, I am freaking hyped to see how Kuro handles this character. I am watching out for some more official information. I'm very excited. Now, in terms of gauntlets, to be honest, gauntlets aren't anything special. They're not like pistols or sword where, okay, you know the standard weapon for it is good, so she'll probably be budget friendly. I can't really say anything like that for certain with Sigrika. There are a couple of good gauntlets in the game at the minute, and I assume they'll probably be usable on her, but I don't really know if the new standard gauntlets are going to be particularly special on her, and the reason I say that is because with NUKE, the reason you can make that assumption is because the other unused Spectro set in the game right now also benefits basic attacks, and then the new standard gauntlets also benefit basic attacks. which makes that a reasonable suggestion. With Sigrika, there isn't really anything that makes me think, oh yeah, this character is going to be really free-to-play friendly in terms of weapons. And Abyss Surges, honestly, aren't the best. So, all around, I don't expect her weapon situation to be great, because I find it quite interesting that you generally can just look at the weapon type of a character, and that usually tells you more than enough in relation to how budget-friendly they're going to be with their weapon. In Sigrika's case, I think it's just sort of, we're gonna have to wait and see. I don't really think she's going to be anything special in that regard. But even so, I am very excited for this potential victory for Choyuan fans. It is a very potential victory. The official kick come out, and she's a freaking Electro support or something. We'll never know until we actually get real information. Kuro is unpredictable with these things, but I am on the train of hoping she is for Choyuan. Well, technically it's the other way around, but agenda. So let's hope for the best. Hopefully this video is able to tell you why Sigrika's attributes are awesome and peak, definitely not biased. This has been Juice, signing out. I'm making one of my favorite Lahai Roy characters potentially work with my favorite Wuthering Waves characters just sounds so amazing. Please let it happen, Kuro, please.